In my last blog, I promised that I would tell you about symbiotic relationship, which we'll get to in just a moment. But in the introduction to my book, Devoted to God and Each Other, I tell the story of my first marriage counseling session, just 2 months after I began my pastoral internship. It took place in my car, riding down a street in Honolulu. It was a beautiful Hawaiian evening, scented with the fragrance of jasmine bushes. But the couple sitting in the back seat of my car were not in a very fragrant mood emotionally. I'd gotten a phone call from the young husband asking me to come over to their house. He said, "Pastor Deane, please come over right away. Jenny says she's going to leave me." When I got there, Jenny was standing by the door, ready to walk out. I suggested we go for a ride, hoping to cool off the atmosphere. He asked me to drive because he said he was just too upset. As we drove off, Greg pleaded with his wife, Jenny, I love you. I love you more than God himself." Jenny wasn't moved by his words. In fact, she said that was a major part of their problem. Greg had made an idol of his wife. He expected her to fill all his needs, which was suffocating her emotionally. She knew she couldn't do everything for him, things that only God can do. But he didn't understand the connection between his relationship with his wife and relationship with God. And so he wasn't able to be a conduit of blessing between God and his wife so that he could help fill her emotional needs. I believe that God created marriage to be a symbiotic relationship. Think of two intersecting circles, really two sets of symbiotic relationships. Symbiotic, the word, is from the Greek. Biotic, biology, is life. Sym is with. So symbiotic is sharing life and the energy to live with another human being. The dictionary puts it this way. Symbiotic is the interaction between two organisms living in close physical association, especially but not always to the advantage of both of them. Does that not sound like the ups and downs of marriage? I once heard a speaker say that our challenge of living life in this 21st century is like living in a spaceship. Because of all the advances in communication nowadays, almost instant communication, we're living in very close quarters with each other, with other human beings. It's like living in a spaceship. It's hard to have much neutral, safe zone between each other. And so in order to produce or to create that safe space, we look to technology, smartphones and computers through which we can talk to each other. It's not that we can't communicate face to face. Let me tell you another quick story. I saw this on the internet recently. It was a well-known marriage therapist, and he had a graphic of a man and woman sitting up in bed with the pillows behind them, both of them with their cell phones in hand, and they were texting each other. Do you believe it? He says, "Now, is that not sad or what?" Actually, he said, it's embarrassing because that man and the woman in the picture you just saw, that was me and my wife. This is what he said. Well, our relationship is first with God, this symbiotic relationship, because he's a living being, the creator and sustainer of the universe. And not just initially at the beginning, but he keeps on creating and sustaining and maintaining us. He grants us health and a healthy sense of hope towards the future. Jesus, God's Son, said it as clearly as possible. I have come, he said, that you may have life and that you may have it to the full, or that you may have it abundantly. How do we live abundantly with each other? Relating in such a way that we add to each other's health and well-being, sharing our blessings, so we add to each other's advantages, not adding disadvantages to them. I'm reminded of what St. Paul wrote, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up, he said. Also in Romans 14, so let us pursue what makes for peace and for mutual upbuilding. Next time, we'll talk more about living in a healthy symbiotic relationship, beginning with our wedding.